see what his thoughts are on this U-turn by the National Petroleum Authority. Hello, good evening, sir. Welcome to Eyewitness News. For those who do not understand what the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy on petroleum products is, can you give us some education and tell us why it's important to make it remain there or take it away?
Well, thank you and good evening to your listeners. The Stabilization and Recovery Levy is one of those levies that over the years we've been asking for it to be taken out altogether. But the excuse you get is that, well, we use part of that to, as it were, subsidize for premix for fisher folks. And so we need that money to pay for premix and sometimes RFO. As to whether the core reason for which we had requested for Parliament to approve a stabilization levy has ever been met, the answer will be a big no. One of the core things that the stabilization and recovery levy should have done is to have a stabilization fund created so that whatever monies you and I pay on a daily from buying fuel, those monies could be accounted for when international market prices for fuel tends to go higher than expected. And so it should have been a buffer. It should have been a safety net. It should have been a contingency fund that helps all of us not to get to the limits that petroleum prices have gone to. But sadly, it's often just been appropriated for premix to the detriment of having a stabilization fund created. And so, in recent days, if you recall, the NPA had instituted a certain measure to zero the stabilization levy from 16 pesos a liter for petrol, 14 for diesel, 14 for LPG per kilogram. The NPA, knowing where the numbers were heading, had decided that they were going to do something to get to stabilize prices for Ghanaians. Sadly, that is not what we're seeing. A few days after, you have a situation where not only is the NPA told to reverse the situation, but they are also told to come back and charge the full stream of what the stabilization levy should be used for. And that is where we are currently, where you saw the 1st of April, prices of fuel were supposed to have increased. The NPA, in their wisdom, and of course, advising on policy, would have told government, let's use the stabilization levy or zero it to get to a situation where we can't be able to offset the increments that were imminent. Unfortunately, the NPA will not have its way, as we were told later. A certain big brother called the IMF is in town, and the PSRL clearly would have funds accruing to it. And so as and when you decide that out of your budgetary support that the IMF is providing, you are also throwing away revenue in the form of price stabilization and recovery levy. The question will be asked as to where else are you getting funds from, because that will create a gap in your budget. But what this does to the Ghanaian public, to the Ghanaian consumer, is to leave us wildly exposed, such that the state cannot intervene anymore. The state will not have the intervening ability to offset whatever international market prices throw at us. Again, the state also seems helpless, even in controlling what you call the local currency. And so as it stands, just between January and March, the Citi that used to trade around 12.2, 12.3, maximum 12.5 is today 13.7, 13.8, 14 in some places. So the Citi is fast depreciating. International markets are simply looking quite bullish, as in prices are up and going higher. What government could have done to ameliorate your suffering in Ghana it looks as though IMF conditionalities would not allow them to do any of that. And that is why you are probably getting a reversal in 72 hours after the NPA's carefully thought intervention that they had put in.
I see. So what have you been picking up? Have all the OMCs applied the difference now, or some of them are waiting to do so later?
As of this afternoon, every single OMC that we had computed has had to go back to apply the stabilization levy. So if you recall, at the start of the window, on the 3rd or 2nd, stations like Gual had moved up to 13.99 for gasoline or petrol. Now, when the NPA issued that communique, prices had to go back to 14.15. That is to say that the 16 pesos has been reinforced. Diesel has also seen the same 14 pesos added. LPG has also gone up by that. The only worrying sign now is that since the NPA and by extension the government is clearly handicapped, even if they would have wished to intervene in getting fuel prices stable, is that they cannot do so now because, like I indicated earlier, a certain big brother is watching as to whether revenue gaps will be created by certain political decisions that will be taken. And so we are widely exposed, and the signals as far as international market price movements and the Citi's performance is concerned doesn't look too good. And sooner than later, I'm sure fuel will cross 16, 17 in no time.
I see. Very little has been said these days of the Gold for Oil program. How important is this program now, especially that we're beginning to see an upward adjustment of prices at the pump, to getting cheaper fuel?
Well, you see, the Gold for Oil program, if not for somehow political communication, could have achieved a lot. Unfortunately, it was as though we wanted to do some politicking with it, but it still managed to bring the markets to some good points. Unfortunately, it cannot do too much as I speak with you because its contribution to the market is under 30%. What it means is that over 70% of what you consume has got nothing to do with gold for oil. But even that, the gold for oil prices were able to, on their own, check, some of the OMCs or BDCs from overshooting their premiums or prices that they put onto the market. So it played a certain role. As to whether it will be able to stay relevant or significant, I don't know how much Bank of Ghana will continuously be allowed by the IMF to continue to pump money that we say we don't have into a gold for oil program. So that program, as I speak with you, its future you cannot really determine until probably the Bank of Ghana comes back to say that the withdrawal announcement they had issued earlier, they are going back to it fully. Anything other than this, the Bank of Ghana will simply have the arduous task of going back to whatever magic it did. If you recall, before 2022 November, fuel prices locally had gone to as much as 21 Ghana cedis a liter. And then it began descending because the Citi dollar that had also depreciated to around 17, 18 Ghana cedis exchange. The Bank of Ghana found some magic to do to bring it to 11 and 12. And so if the Bank of Ghana can go back to stabilizing the local currency as opposed to probably banking all their hopes on gold for oil, maybe there could be some relief for Ghanaians. But as it stands, Bank of Ghana seem not to be doing much with the Citi. Gold for oil cannot probably drive down prices. Central, we were told, was also delivering efficient prices to the market, but for some days now has also had to go down due to the Dumsor situation. So it looks as though we are simply going to be price taking from the West. So whatever happens with the Ukraine-Russia drone bombing of Russia refineries that knocks off international supplies, you will simply have to pay for it in Ghana. And sadly, the government cannot do anything because IMF clearly may also not allow them.
Very well. Thanks so much, Duncan Amwa. Pleasure always. Speaking to you on matters like this. Eyewitness News on 97.3 Citi FM.